Hold up, I am on my way, I'm in motion. Let's go to the ocean. Yeah, let's go outside. We can hang out on the beach without freezing.
Welcome to Crafty Beach. This is Julie. Today I have all of the patriotic Dollar Tree DIYs I've made on my channel so far this year in 2026. I put them all together in one video for you, and I've included chapters if you would like to skip around. For this DIY, I'm taking this plain wood star sign from the Dollar Tree, and we're going to make this into a wonderful wall hanging using little wood stars from the Dollar Tree. These are the chunkier wood stars they have now, the assorted wood shapes. And I really love these. I thought we could add these coming out all different sides, making this look like a giant exploding firework. So I went ahead and laid those out. I did 3 of those in each like little opening of the star. They also have like these flatter wood stars at Dollar Tree. I have some here in a couple different sizes. You can kind of use whatever you can find. I thought I would do one of the larger ones for each point of the star. And then I'm also going to use little tiny wood stars a little bit further out, creating a pattern. I went ahead and laid it all out first so I would know exactly what I was going to do, and then I planned out colors. I wanted to do red, white, and blue, but I also wanted it to be random, and I didn't want light colors to be next to each other. So what I did was I just used a pencil, and I went ahead and put an initial B, R, or W on each one of the stars so I would know which color to paint them to get the look that I was going for. Now, before I take all these little stars away, I did go in here and I took a picture with my phone so that I could use that for reference when I have everything painted to put it together so I can put it together just like I had it laid out. Now I'm going to separate these into the colors that I'm going to paint them. And I'm going to stain the little wood star sign. I thought that would look really pretty instead of just painting it. So I'm going to use some antique wax and just go over this with a thin coat. These raw wood items from the Dollar Tree stain really well. I'm going to have one of the little navy wood stars from the Dollar Tree, decorating that as well too, laying it so it's not quite so flat. But this worked perfect, and it was such a plain star sign, and it's going to turn into a giant star, like exploding firework wall hanging that you could also use for a wreath for your front door if you wanted to. I'm going to use mine in my entryway. Now I have this little patriotic wood hanging decor that had a wood star on it that's navy that I thought would be perfect. I'm going to add that to the front of it. But first, I'm going to have skewers coming out every direction. These are the kitchen skewers from the kitchen aisle at Dollar Tree. And I have a total of 30 stars that I'm adding to this one. So I'm going to count out 30 skewers. I want to paint these too so they'll look pretty and festive for the 4th of July. So I'm going to start here with the stars that I had. R's on for red. I'm going to use an apple red spray paint to spray paint these just to save a little time. And I sprayed all of my red stars at once. I'm also going to make all of my skewers red. I think that will look really cool. And so I am going to lay those down and paint those with spray paint as well. Now you'll see I ended up putting these in foam, and that actually works a little bit better because they're round. I have all the different sides to paint, but this is how I did mine. I just laid them all out, all 30 of the wood skewers, painted them all red, kind of mixed them up here to get the backs of them exposed, and painted them some more. I did notice though there were some areas that was kind of hard to roll them individually. And so I think it would work better if you just went ahead and added yours to some foam first. I went ahead and picked these up and added these all to this little floral foam scrap piece that I have from the Dollar Tree. And then I was able to touch up any parts of that that still needed a little bit more paint, like this. This is how I would recommend painting them. That way they're not stuck to a surface or anything like that, and you can paint them all the way around. For the second color, I'm going to add some more cardboard. This is going to be the navy ones, and these are all of the blue ones that I had marked, and I'm going to spray paint them all blue. As you can see, the flatter stars are a lot different than the chunkier ones, but really, if you just had one or the other, I think it would work. You're just going to need a lot of wood stars. These are my final color. We're going to do these in white. I just used a white primer spray paint to spray paint these. And now we'll have red, white, and blue stars that we can put going out in all different directions from that star sign. But first, we need to attach the skewers. So I let the paint dry on those, and then I added a little bit of hot glue onto the back of my wood stars. And I'm glad that I did all the skewers in the same color. It just made it easier not having to color coordinate these too much. But I'm going to do one color at a time. So I started there with my white stars and added a skewer to the back of all of these. The skewers are a little bit longer than I need, but I can always cut these down to size. They're really super easy to cut with some miter scissors or just some heavy duty like kitchen scissors. And I'm going to go ahead and glue these onto all of these so they will all be ready to attach. I had the idea of like an exploding starburst sign, and I'm really glad I created this. It's such a large statement piece that I can put in my entryway for the 4th of July this summer. Are you decorating for 4th of July? I really hope so. It's a really fun festive holiday to decorate with. These are my last color. These are the navy ones. I just glued all of the skewers on, and now I have all 30 stars ready to go. I'm not going to attach that blue star yet because I need to be able to lay this down flat to be able to attach all of these. I used my photo for reference, so I know exactly where I'm putting all of my stars. These flat red ones are going at each point, so I just use my miter scissors to cut those down, and I'm just going to glue those directly onto the back. The skewers are nice and thin, and I shouldn't have any areas where I'm overlapping since I am cutting them down, so they should sit flush against the wall, actually making the product a little bit more 3D since the Dollar Tree sign was, very thin. I went ahead and added some twine there to the hanger before I glued this one down because I realized I was kind of blocking the hole on that one to make a little hanger here to replace what was on there before. And then these red stars were coming out at each point like this, and they were closest to the star. So I cut those down a little bit shorter, glued those all in place, and taking a photo of what you had laid out, especially writing what color each star is on there, makes this part go so much more smooth, adding everything down. We're going to switch up to the navy. And I had these coming out a little bit taller, but part of that 3-star pattern that I had there, and just laying these all out and attaching these with hot glue to the back. I really love how this turned out. I had thought about using like the little flat bamboo sticks instead of the skewers, but I like the idea of the skinny skewer. They are still strong enough being made out of wood to support all of the stars, but they really make it look like it is exploding out like a firework, which I love. We're going to finish this up with the white ones, gluing those all in place. And as you can see, they all fit perfectly here on the back of the star with no overlap at all. And my tiny white stars are right over here. I think I added the perfect amount. 30 seemed like a lot, but I had a lot of these little wood stars in my crafting stash from Dollar Tree that I was able to use. And these weren't like 4th of July stars. All of these stars came from like just the regular crafter square at the Dollar Tree. This does seem pretty strong. Using that Gorilla Glue hot glue on the back, I think is going to be plenty strong enough to keep all of these on. And we have all of our stars added to the back. Let's flip it over and see what it looks like. I love it. Now let's add that final navy star here to the front to make this part a little bit more 3D too. And I think that really finished the project. I think this stained wood looks nice in contrast to all of the red, white, and blue. And let me show you how this one turned out. This may be one of my favorite Patriotic DIYs I've ever made. It's really large. It looks so great in my entryway. I know that this has been super popular over on Facebook as well. And if you've recreated this, be sure to let us know in the Facebook group and show off your DIY. This was such a fun 4th of July DIY. For this DIY, we're going to use the jumbo pool noodle from the Dollar Tree. I think these are new this year, maybe. They're $3. They're a lot bigger than the regular pool noodles. And I thought these would make some great fireworks to decorate my porch. So this is going to be a much shorter firework, but definitely stockier. I do want them to be different lengths, though. So I took one of those jumbo pool noodles and cut it into 3 pieces. Now, 2 of mine ended up being exactly the same length. So I'm going to cut one a little bit shorter. So I have 3 different sizes. For the first firework, I'm going to cover it with one of these Patriotic table covers from the Dollar Tree. This one has fireworks on the side of it. They give you the pattern, they don't show you that most of it's actually covered in white, but I think that there's gonna be plenty to cover one. I think I'll do my largest firework in this material. It's very thin, but it's perfect, I think, for a firework. And these are gonna be like firecrackers, giant firecrackers. I'm also going to build a custom crate for these to decorate my porch. And it's a nice large outdoor DIY that is going to look so fun for summer. So I cut a piece long enough to cover my largest firework. And then the side panel that actually has the pattern is wide enough to go around the jumbo pool noodle. So I just cut that off the white part and wrap that around. It actually kind of clings to it because it's so super thin, the table covers from the Dollar Tree. It's so thin, in fact, that I thought I better not try hot glue with it. It will melt right through it. So instead, I attached the seams of this to my pool noodle with just some Mod Podge. So I put a coat of Mod Podge down, and the side that had a little bit of a white line on it, I'm going to have that be under the other side seam here, adding more hot glue and wrapping that around. Now it was just white enough, but I think that's going to work out perfectly. For the end of it, I'm going to have it look like a firecracker with a wick. And so I do need that to be covered. You're going to be able to see it. So I also used that same material to cut out a circle, just using the end of the pool noodle for reference to cover the top of it. And we already have the hole cut in the middle of the pool noodle. And so I'll be able to put my wick down in there. And again, since this is so thin, instead of hot glue, I switched to Mod Podge with this one. And I'm just gluing that onto the top. And then I can cut off the excess material so it sits flush against my firecracker. I thought I would do 3 of these using that pool noodle. That one jumbo pool noodle that was $3 will make all 3 of them. Then I cut a hole in the top of it and a Dollar Tree rope into a wick. It's not quite dry yet, so I can kind of peel it back, hot glue that on the inside, have a little slit for it to come out the top, and we have our first giant firecracker complete. And I think that that firework exploding pattern looks really good. For this second one, we're going to use one of the Dollar Tree table runners to cover this one. This is jumbo, so it's going to need the entire width of this to cover, but I thought we could kind of line up the stars together on one side and we can have a stars and stripe firework. So again, just cutting this down to length for this size firework, I think this is going to work perfectly. This material is thicker, so I can use hot glue to attach this, just wrapping it around in a simple cover. And I didn't need to paint this. The light blue was light enough to not really interfere with the pattern of this. I think that will work. And I'm going to have the flag stars on the front of this one. I used the end part here that I would normally cut off of this to trace out a circle here for the end of this firework. And we're going to cover the top of this one with stripes. I was trying to find easily available items from the Dollar Tree to cover all of these. And this is the first time I've crafted with the jumbo pool noodle, but I'm a big fan. I definitely love this chunkier size. So trimming off the excess fabric, I also have some rope here for a wick for this one. And I went ahead and glued that one in first using hot glue. And then I have a slit cut here in the center where I can wrap that around. And I used hot glue to attach the end of this one too, just making sure it was laying flat and my wick was sticking out like a giant firecracker. So that one is complete as well. So let's move on to firework number 3. We're going to cover this one with the Dollar Tree chair cover. I wanted this one to be all stars. I wanted each one of my firecrackers to be different, and I will be able to cover it with stars and then have like stripes on the bottom. Really, you can only see the stars the way that I ended up displaying it, but I was glad to see that it was wide enough with just the star part. So I just cut the chair cover down, cutting the back off of the chair cover, and cut this down where I have the flag stars on the top and the flag stripes on the bottom. Now that I have that material, all 3 of these materials will hold up really well outdoors, I think. They're all a little bit weather resistant. I'm going to simply wrap this around like that, and I used hot glue. Now here I put the hot glue directly on the pool noodle. You probably should put it on the fabric first because it does melt the pool noodle a little bit, but no big deal. You're not going to be able to see it because I have a little bit of a seam here where I overlapped the fabrics. And then I also need to cover the end of this firecracker as well. So I'm using that chair cover again. I'm going to cut out a stripe pattern for this one. And I like the fact that they're all a little bit different and using different items that you can find from the Dollar Tree. So I cut out a circle for the top of this one, cut a little slit here in the middle, and another rope for a wick. I wanted to do a giant crate, like a giant crate of fireworks to sit on my front porch, something large to go by my front door that would look really festive for the 4th of July holiday, which this year it's a very important 4th of July with our 250th anniversary here in the United States. So we should go all out and decorate, I think. So I am cutting off the excess material once I glued that on, and we have our third and final firecracker complete. Now it's time to make a crate. This is how I made it. I used 2 of the 2 packs of the shorter wall shelves, and then I used a total of 5 of the larger wall shelves. Now, once you buy all of this wood material, it might just be cheaper to buy the wood bins they have from the Dollar Tree. But you know me, I like to craft stuff myself. So I'm going to make mine, and it was actually really easy to do using these materials. I love the thickness of these. I think they will hold up well outdoors. I'm going to put it together like that, where you don't really see the side pieces from the front. I'm going to glue that onto the back, just using hot glue and forming a 90-degree angle here. This is going to be the bottom part of the crate because this is going to be a large crate for these giant firecrackers. So I'm going to do like a double decker with this design. And they're pretty uniform, as you can see, so they're pretty easy to line up to build something like this. To put on the back of the bin, I just put hot glue here on one corner. I thought I would do one corner at a time. And glue this, kind of bending it out to make sure that all of my corners are square. Then we're going to go up for the second level. I did my side piece first, hot gluing that exactly like the first layer. And we're going to go in with the front here too. And this one I need to glue on to the side piece, but I also need to glue it on here to the bottom. And I just used hot glue. If you wanted to use wood glue and you had the time and clamps, you could do that. I wanted to get this project done, so I used hot glue, and I use Gorilla Glue hot glue. It works really well for wood projects. I'm going to glue the other side on, gluing that to both pieces of wood it comes in contact to. And if you're wondering what that last wood shelf is for, it's not going to be large enough for the bottom, but for a crate style, I thought I could make it work. So I'm going to glue that onto the bottom to be the bottom of the crate. So we have this structure of the crate. It's nice and large. I tested it out to make sure it's going to be big enough to hold all 3, and I think that's going to work perfect. This is what I mean with it not being large enough. I can use it for structural support just by gluing it, kind of centering it in the middle. And a crate has openings in it a lot of times anyway, so I think that will work. To make sure none of my stuffing or things I'm going to add to it fall through, though, I thought I would take one of these flexible cutting mats from the Dollar Tree and just add that to the bottom just to make sure nothing falls through and to kind of keep weather out of it too, since it's going outdoors. Now to decorate this bin, I want it to look like an old firework crate. So the first thing I did was just give it a light sanding. Most of the holes are drilled pretty well here, and I think those will work. And I want it to look like a old distressed wood, but my first coat I did was antique parchment, giving it an ivory coat all over. We are going to hand paint this using a stencil that I designed, and I will include the SVG to this design if you want to recreate it in the description of today's video. And then we're going to distress it to make it look like wood. So I just used this ivory color first. It worked great because I needed something to be a background that will keep the stain from staining this wood dark. I want it to definitely be a lighter wood project. And the ivory paint there in the back worked perfectly for this. So I just painted around all 4 sides of our DIY crate. And then I also did the top edge. Now it's time to paint it. I used stencil vinyl. I get this stuff on Amazon. I have it linked in my Amazon shop, linked in the description of today's video. And I created this file. I kind of broke it up into 2 parts to make it nice and large and to be able to cut it out on my Cricut Joy Extra. Now, you should have used transfer tape for this one, but they were all connected letters, so I thought it would work. But some of them kind of broke, but I think I can still use it. I just need to put the center of my O back on and then weed out the star. So I have fireworks here on the top. I'm going to add some painter's tape over here to the side to make sure that I don't get any paint over there where I don't want it. And then I went in with a navy acrylic paint. This paint was really thick and kind of old, and it caused me a few problems with the painting of this that you will see here in a minute, but I wanted it to look old, so I'm gonna get that distressed look you'll see here in a minute. I thought that the stars would look good in red and blue, so I did the outer stars in red and the center went in blue. And then I'm going to add the stencil for the bottom part of the crate that I cut out separately so it would all fit. This one has a line and then it says ready for launch. This time I'm going to weed it and use transfer tape like I should. So hopefully I won't have any problems. Besides that A, that little middle part of that A wanted to give me all kinds of trouble. Once it becomes unstuck, it's hard to get it to stick again. This is the transfer paper that I use. I use this paper transfer paper in the 6-inch size. I also have that linked in my Amazon shop. It works great, especially when you're working on a freshly painted surface like this. It doesn't take any of the paint off. So I just added my stencil vinyl to that one. And this worked way better using the transfer tape and doing it the right way. So this is going to be the bottom of the crate, ready for launch down here. And as you can see, the paper is thin enough that you can still see through it enough to be able to line it up, but it peels off just kind of like masking tape. I added a little bit more painter's tape, and then I'm going to use some red acrylic paint for ready for launch. The reason I know the old paint and the navy that was a little thicker was the problem is because the red went on perfectly fine. I just did one coat. I wanted to avoid any bleeding, and this is what I'm talking about when I said that the old paint, and maybe I let it dry a little bit too much, gave me a very distressed look. But you know what? I wanted distressed, and so I think I can actually fix that. But the bottom turned out way better. So I'm going to peel off all of my stencil vinyl and any of the little vinyl pieces that are stuck in between any of the letters. I love using my Cricut, but I also want it to be quick and easy. So I am going to touch up these letters because I don't want to do this again. So I used that navy paint and a tiny brush, and I just kind of touched up some of it that was just a little bit too distressed for my liking. And again, we're going to make this look like wood, so that's going to help disguise some of it too, and the star there on top. For the distressing, I'm going to use some antique wax and just brush some on horizontally across my crate, and then I use a baby wipe to kind of blend that and mix it. It gives me this faux wood grain, but a very light finish. And I like the way that looks. I saved the painted side for last to make sure that was really dry before I went over it. I don't want it to mess up the pattern that we went on there, but I do want all of it to look like this distressed wood. And so I just distressed all of it, a little dry brush. As you can see, I'm using very little of the antique wax, and most of it is in the blending process there using the baby wipe. Now for the front, I'm going to go ahead and do the same thing here. And I love how this turned out. It's exactly what I was envisioning with a fireworks crate. It did take quite a few of the wood signs to be able to put it together, but it's a nice large decor piece to decorate my front porch where you will be able to see it from afar away. Again, I had this little plastic cutting sheet that I put on the inside of it. We're going to fill most of this up with fillers because I do want you to be able to see the giant fireworks. So I'm going to use these paper bags that I have from the Dollar Tree. You can use whatever kind of paper or recycling you have to fill up the inside of yours. I thought the paper bags would definitely be the cheapest option to fill up that space, and I can also kind of crunch those up and put them around my fireworks as well. So the bottom bin I kind of filled up with those. I added my giant firecrackers to it, and then I crumpled up more of the paper bags, kind of worked them in front and beside these so I could position the firecrackers to sit exactly how I wanted in the crate. I don't really want you to be able to see the paper bags, so I want it to look a little bit more festive for the 4th of July. So I'm going to use some of these little starburst bows from the party aisle at Dollar Tree. I found some in blue and white and metallic gold, and I thought these would be really cute, just kind of scattering these in here anywhere where you might be able to see in the bin to disguise the paper bags that I'm using for filler. Also in the back where you can see in between the 3 fireworks, I added some bows back there as well. And this is so large, I'm going to have to show you here how this turned out. I have displayed this by sitting this next to my front door. It looks really cute with the giant firecrackers in there. And I love the jumbo pool noodles. They were more expensive, but I used one to make all of these. And so not too bad. And I love the fireworks crate. Really fun. If you're going to use yours outdoors and it's going to get any heat, you might want to use nails on it though. Now for this one, I picked up a hula hoop from the Dollar Tree. This is the smaller hula hoop of the two that I could find. And it already had blue star pattern on it, but it wasn't patriotic color blue, right? So I'm going to paint mine. I just used a navy blue acrylic paint, and I'm going to sponge paint all the way around. I wish I could have left it, but it would have just been too distracting not being a patriotic color. What I want to do is paint all four sides of this so you won't be able to see any of that teal or turquoise color coming through. And this is going to be the top to a chandelier party decor for 4th of July. It looks so cool, and I love how large this is. So I just sponge painted the top, the sides, and the bottom of this. Kind of had to do it in 4 steps to cover everything with that navy color. But if a little bit of the blue shininess shines through, I'm fine with it. 1 coat of navy paint is really all I need for this. Now, this is what I'm going to use to make most of the chandelier. It is the wave fringe curtain. Unlike the straight fringe backdrop that you see there, this one is all curly. So it kind of reminds me of like curling ribbon, all the action that you're going to get there from it moving in the wind. And I think this is going to be perfect for this. So I just kind of estimated how long I wanted my chandelier to be. And I just took the entire bundle and cut it all off at once. That's going to be plenty, actually, this little section here, to do my entire chandelier. And I picked up some other Dollar Tree party decorations to add to this. I wanted it to be all red, silver, and blue, and lots of stars. So instead of red, white, and blue, all the decorations I could find there today were red, silver, and blue. So that's what we're going to do. And I'm gluing 2 on. So I did a blue and a silver, and then I did a silver and a red. That way 1 piece can be on the inside, 1 piece can be on the outside, and I want to alternate all of my colors. So red, blue was my last combination. Now I'm just going to repeat that same pattern all the way around. And I'm just using a little bit of hot glue. I thought that that would be the fastest way to do this. But definitely make sure to wear like a little finger protector. You see that I have mine there from the Dollar Tree to make sure you don't burn yourself on this step. But I'm just kind of spacing these out like every inch, an inch and a half. I'm not measuring them. It doesn't really matter. In the end, we're going to add lots of more details to the chandelier too. But this is going to be a lot of like the fluttering ribbons that you see when you look at the chandelier. And I'm making this to go out in my Florida room and outdoor decor. But you know, you could use this indoors too, especially if you had like a light that doesn't have a ceiling fan on it. You might be able to put this around it and make a fun glittering chandelier because it will be lit up from inside. And I'm just going to continue that same pattern all the way around. It is a pretty large hula hoop, so definitely take your time adding all of these because you do have to add them 1 piece at a time all the way around. I did think about tying them together and then gluing the knot to the top, but just gluing them down separately, one on top of another, seemed to be the easiest way for me to do this. If you're enjoying today's video, be sure to hit that like button. It helps my videos do so much better here on YouTube. And if you haven't subscribed yet, I'd really appreciate it. Only about 35% of you guys are subscribed to my channel. It's free. It's definitely something that I would appreciate if you could subscribe to my channel. And that also helps my channel do better too. And if you're watching today on your phone, if you could hype this video, that helps get my video out to more people on YouTube. Now that we are almost covered here, we have this entire chandelier to cover with these little curly strips. Then I'm going to show you the rest of the decor we're going to add to the chandelier. The first thing that I found to add to this was some Patriotic lays. They have like a little bit of tinsel, some glittery red, white, and blue stars. So I thought this would be fun to add to it. What I'm going to do is glue the string to one of the stars and then cut it and then glue the string to the other side here like that. And then I think that I can get 2 strands out of 1 lay. So I'm going to here fold it in half. and then do the same thing. Make sure to glue your strings down though before you cut it so that it doesn't come all apart like this. And now I have 2 strands. I don't think that's going to be enough though. So I'm going to do another lay, and I'm going to do the same thing, glue and then cut this into 2 different pieces. That will be 4. I think that's enough of the stars and the tinsel to come down the sides of the chandelier. And I want everything to be a little bit different lengths too for my chandelier. I think that will make it look better. And so now that I have this piece cut down and glued, we can attach them. I don't really have any string left to attach them, to tie them. So what I did was I just glued the star on one end on the very top of the hula hoop like that. I'm going to twist this around here about a quarter. So that was 12. This would be like 9 o'clock. I'm going to do another one, and then I'm going to keep twisting and add the other 2. I picked up the lays. I also picked up some little star garland and some glittery paper stars that I think will look good with this too. I don't know how well this would hold up outdoors with the paper stars on there. I don't know. They might be okay. This part was kind of plastic. And so I think that would work. There are these little glittery red, silver, and blue stars, and they have like wire, like rings attaching them together. So I unhooked it about halfway so I could make 2 out of 1 strand of garland, and just use that ring to bend it out, put it around the hula hoop, and I don't even have to hang it on that side. Now, I don't have a ring for this side, an extra ring, because I used it for the other side. So for this one, I just used floral wire, and I kind of did the same thing, wiring that to the hula hoop. This is the second little star garland, and I'm going to unhook the hook on this one. I can use that hook to wrap that around the hula hoop here. And again, kind of doing quadrants. I have 2 of the garland, so I can make 4 of these because I broke them in half. And then I used floral wire here to attach the one on the other side. Just going through the hole that the hook had been in before, the little ring. And now that is complete. Another thing I thought we could add to it were the red, silver, and blue star necklaces. I think I'm just going to cut it in half and make it one long strand of stars. So I just cut it in half and then glued 1 star to the top of the hula hoop like that, so it will dangle down. That will be nice because it's going to be something that's not ribbon, a different texture, but still super shiny and fun. So I did the red necklace, and I'm going to have a total of 2 packages of these, which is a total of 6 necklace strands. So I did 3 on each half, just kind of trying to spread those out evenly, and adding those like different places. Then I added the lays, the star garland. This is the other package. I'm going to do the same thing. I just cut them in half. They seem pretty sturdy, these little star necklaces. I saw them and I thought, that's not a garland, but I bet I could definitely decorate with these, and they definitely came in handy. And again, they're the red, silver, and blue, like most of this. The only thing that had white on it, I think, was the lays so far. Then these are some stars, the paper stars I was talking about, the garland, and they're nice and large. They're not strung already, so that makes it even better. They do have holes punched into them, so I thought I could use the existing little curly fringe here to actually attach those. So I chose a blue one to attach a blue star, and I just fed the ribbon through there and double tied that on the back so it will stay put. And then we'll have a large dangly glitter star hanging down below. I think that's going to work really well. I'm going to do a red one next. So I picked a red strand here and attach this. And I'm going to try to spread these out evenly around this like I've done everything else. The last one was silver. Again, these were red, silver, and blue, which I don't know why they don't do red, white, and blue, but silver is really pretty. So I'm going to do another blue here for this star and keep working my way around. I'm going to do 1 more red and 1 more silver. So I used a total of 6 of these stars, like I used 6 of the necklaces, and just kind of spreading out all the fun extra stuff to go with all of the ribbon. Now, this is the string that the garland came with. It's gold. I thought I might as well take advantage of this. I folded it into thirds so I could cut it down into 3 even pieces here. And I thought we could use that to hang the chandelier. So I'm Just gonna wrap this around the hula hoop and double tie this here for one strand. I'll bring them all together and I think this is gonna make a perfect hanger. Now this twine, it's really pretty because it's gold, so I thought that would be fun and patriotic, but it is a little slick. So once I get them all tied on there, I am gonna hot glue those knots shut so it doesn't come untied because that would make the whole chandelier fall. I don't want that. And so I just added some hot glue to each one of those and kind of glued those down too. And I will reinforce it when I knot them all here at the top too. So I just brought all 3 of my strands together here at the top. And then I am just going to knot them together like this to make the hanger for our chandelier. I love how this turned out. It's so fun and festive. It looks great like outdoors because the wind is going to kind of blow it all around. You could put it around a light fixture or in an empty corner of your 4th of July party. And I think it's going to look so fun. This is what it looks like hanging from the top of my Florida room. Really fun. It looks great outdoors because it all moves around a little bit and has a lot of movement in it too. And I will show you that as well. But I absolutely love how this turned out. Really fun 4th of July party DIY. And if you're enjoying today's video, be sure to hit that like button. It always helps my videos do better here on YouTube. And I'd really appreciate it if you would subscribe. And if you're feeling all of the 4th of July DIYs like this chandelier, be sure to hype this video on your phone. I would really appreciate it. So what we're going to do is make a patriotic wreath using one of the metal wreath forms from the Dollar Tree. I used my wire cutters and kind of scored it and then broke it so that I would be able to string the metal hearts from the Dollar Tree on here. I saw a similar wreath at Pier 1 for $60 and I thought I could make one of those and use these metal stars from the Dollar Tree. I've been looking for a DIY to use these with, so I just cut them off of their ornament like that. They have a little metal eyelet on there, and I use that to string it to the metal wreath form. These wire wreath forms are great because they just have a single ring, and this is the larger one of the 3-pack. I got the metal little barn stars in red, white, and blue, and I want to do that red, white, and blue pattern all the way around. And so what I ended up using was a total of 12. So 6 packages. 2 packages of each color was enough to fill up this entire ring. I kind of wanted to do 13, but it would throw off my pattern of red, white, blue. I need something divisible by the number 3. So I'll have a little tiny space between each star, but I want them all to lay flat. At this point, they're only attached with the eyelet that I'm stringing them on. I will have to attach the metal star to the metal wreath form to make this a permanent display to go outdoor on my front door for the 4th of July this summer. I actually went ahead and put it out there and it looks fantastic. So repeating my red, white, blue pattern all the way around, this is the layout of what it's going to look like. Now I did break my metal wreath form, so to put it back together, I just used some duct tape here and put that under there, put the wreath back together and use duct tape to attach it. I think that will be fine just to mend it there in that one spot, but it made it a lot easier because now I have all of my stars attached. I don't want them to hang though. I do want them to be attached to the metal wreath form. I'm going to use 1 star to cover the duct tape. My first method I tried was the multi-purpose cement from Dollar Tree, the glue. I thought I would try this to see. It says it can work on metal. My problem is that I have a very small contact area between this little metal wire and the metal edge of my star. So I did try this and I don't think it's going to work. I also tried like the craft clamps from the Dollar Tree, but they tended to spin and it kind of spun my stars around. And so I think I'm going to have to get something a little bit more heavy duty. But I did attempt it first with a multi-purpose cement. And then I'm like, you know what? It might be easier just to flip it over and kind of lay out my stars how I want them to be on here. I kind of bent the little eyelet to make them lay flat against the wreath form. I even considered using like the little 5-minute epoxy from the Dollar Tree, but I went on the internet and I was like, I want something durable that I can use to attach metal to metal with a small contact area. And they came up with a really good idea and I'm going to show you what I used. First though, I need to kind of lay out my stars again. This is it, JB Weld steel stick, and I was able to DoorDash it. I got it from Lowe's. It was about $7, and it is made for just this kind of purpose. It is an epoxy putty that you can use to do steel to steel, and I'm going to show you exactly how I used it. It comes in a little tube. It does say on the directions to wear gloves, and it is like a little tube of gray putty surrounding a black putty. You have to mix the two putties together to make the permanent bond, and it's quick. It completely hardens and bonds in 5 minutes. So let's try it. I'm going to pinch off a little bit after putting some gloves on. And I'm glad I did because it would have made a mess out of my hands. You basically just work it together like clay until you have a uniform color, a dark gray. I thought I would do two at a time because it only has like that 5 minute set time. I don't want it to set up while I'm still working with it. So I did a little bunch and split it into two and use that to bond the white metal star to my wreath form here, making sure that it's attached to the metal star, but also to my metal wreath form. Straight across will be my next white star. So for spacing, I went ahead and did that one next too. And I tried a couple different ways. Doing the putty from the top here over the wire onto the star seemed to work the best. And you do kind of have to take your time with this, let that set up before you start working on the next one, or they might come off a little bit. Now, since I have those white stars opposite each other, I also need white stars kind of opposite going the other direction as far as spacing to make everything work. So I pinched off another little bit of the steel stick, and this was about $7, the steel stick from Lowe's, but I only ended up using half of it for this DIY, so it wasn't too bad. And I'm always struggling with metal to metal bonding, so I think that this will definitely come in handy to be in my craft supplies. So let's go ahead and do the other white ones. I mixed some more of the epoxy putty and then bonded the other two white stars. I want it to be hidden here in the back. And this is why you really only should do like one or two at a time, is because when you're working on one side, the other side can come loose a little bit, but I was pretty careful to make sure they were bonded before they started to set up. Basically, I had to exercise a little patience. No hot glue on this one. I don't think hot glue would be enough. Hot glue on metal just never seems to work for me. So I have all of my white stars bonded to my wreath form. And now I need to start doing my red and blue stars. Now, you could do like all red stars, all blue stars, all white stars. You could even mix up your pattern a little bit, but I think this is a great way to use these metal stars from the Dollar Tree because it's one of the few like generic crafting supplies that they carry. And I'm always looking for ways to use these. I've used these in the past to make a wind chime too, and that was another really fun one. So I did my red and blue. I'm going to do my next little red and blue. I found it a little bit easier to kind of turn it. And so it was right in front of me to be able to work this. And basically the most time consuming part of this was just mixing the putty and then waiting for it to start to set up. But I'm not measuring or anything. I'm just leaving a little bit of space in between my metal stars. And this was the perfect solution. I'm really glad I tried this. I think if I would have tried the 5 minute epoxy without a clamp that would work on the skinny wire, it probably would have ended up a mess. So the internet wins with this suggestion. I've never used this actual product before, this steel stick epoxy putty, but I'm a huge fan. I'll check to see if there's an Amazon link too. I might add this to my Amazon shop if there is, because it is great for Dollar Tree crafting. Now, my other red and blue stars, I'm just bonding here, and I'm almost done working my way around this. I only have two of the metal stars left, and I could tell, like within 5 minutes, it was bonding strong. It sets up kind of like a concrete like mixture on the back of it. It's going to be completely invisible. I have a half a stick of the steel stick I can use for other DIYs, but really glad I tried this product and it was perfect for this application. Now, the metal star wreath that I saw at Pier 1 kind of had overlapping metal stars a little bit. I like it better, them all kind of spaced apart like this, and I thought it would be more permanent bonding to the wire itself than bonding from star to star. I have them all on there. I let it set up. Let's flip it over and see how it looks. I think it's beautiful, and it's a nice large wreath for my front door for the 4th of July. So I'm going to tie some twine on here. I just knotted it, so it won't kind of move around. And then I knotted it up here to make a little wreath hanger with just some simple Dollar Tree twine. This DIY is complete and I really love how this turned out. You could use this as a wall hanging, of course, but I'm going to be using mine as a wreath for my front door. It is holding up fantastic. It looks great on my front door. I have a white front door, so it looks perfect with that, but I think it would really go with any kind of front door that you might have. I loved the hack of attaching the metal stars to the wreath form, and I am definitely going to be using that more in the future for DIYs. For this DIY, I'm going to take 3 of the wood shelves from Dollar Tree, the wall shelves, and then I actually got this little sea turtle sign online from Hobby Lobby. We don't have a Hobby Lobby where I live, and so I had to order it online, so be sure to check yours. I think it was $5, which is more than I like to spend on my craft supplies, but since Dollar Tree decided to get rid of the Shore Living line, they make me shop other places too. So I just went ahead and removed all of my wood board signs. I tried to find 3 that were super flat so that I could put them together to make a larger sign. Sometimes these are really smooth and sometimes the holes drilled into the sides are a little ragged, so you're probably going to have to give these a quick sand. I like to use these little sanding sponges from the Dollar Tree for that. So I went ahead and sanded all of these, making sure they are a good finish. And I have a lot of stuff to paint here. So I'm going to use one of the Dollar Tree paint rollers. You get all the stuff in there for $1.25, $1.50. I don't know what hardware is right now. Probably $1.50. And then I added the ivory paint to this. I'm using that antique parchment color that I love of Apple Barrel. And I rolled the sea turtle. It does have all of these great print design on there, and I am going to use that in my design, but I wanted to give it an ivory base before I paint everything else on this. And then I want to paint all of my wood shelf signs. I'm going to put 3 together to make a nice large wood sign, and I just painted them all ivory first. I thought the background sign on this should be red and white stripes and flag stripes. So half of each one of these boards is going to stay this ivory color, but then I'm going to paint the other half bright red. So I'm going to go ahead and start with that. I thought it would be easy just to do 2 stripes on each sign. Then I could put them together and have a total of 6 stripes. So I found like the middle of my sign, and that is where I put my painter's tape. They are 5 inches wide, so about 2.5 inches. Then I just used kind of a chippy brush and some red acrylic paint. And I am going over this. I think this was the Crimson Red by Apple Barrel, and I am distressing it as I paint it. I do want it to be mostly red, so you can still see that red and white stripe, but I want you to be able to see a little bit of that ivory paint come through. And one reason I painted the entire thing ivory first is because I didn't really necessarily want to stain the wood. I wanted that paint to sit on top of the ivory paint. For the ivory part, I distressed it with a little bit of antique wax and wiping the excess off with a baby wipe, and now they're both distressed. I'm going to do the same exact thing here on the other 2 sides. 2.5 inches red stripe, 2.5 inches ivory stripe, and this provided a really striking background to the sea turtle, which we're also going to make patriotic. And I really love how it turned out. It's a nice large wood sea turtle. I think it is worth $5. I don't know if Hobby Lobby has sales. I'm sure they do. But definitely check your store if you can't find it or you don't have a Hobby Lobby like me. Just check online, and I'm not an affiliate or anything, but I will try to find the link to that and post that in the description of today's video as well. I really love the distressed vibe I gave to all of these, and then the red and white stripes will be the background, and then I thought we could do like flag stars more for the sea turtle. I have a plan to make that work. So we have all 3 of our boards now in red and white stripes, all distressed. Now we can start putting this sign together. I love crafting with these wall shelves from the Dollar Tree because they're nice and thick. A lot of times they're super straight and not warped. Sometimes they are warped though, you have to check them. And I am adding some hot glue to the edge and I just glue them together. They're thick enough that you can glue them together and they will stay together for a vertical sign that you're going to hang on the wall, especially since we're going to be adding the sea turtle on there too. That's going to glue them all together too. Now for the hanger, I just took some twine, added some hot glue to the end to make that stiff, to kind of make a needle out of that so I can feed that through that tiny wood hole that's drilled on there, knotting it on the front. And then I'm going to bring that to the other side and do the same thing. At first, I just made the hanger just plain twine, but at the end of this DIY, you'll see what I ended up doing with it. I did add a little bit more decor. I don't want it to be super long. I think that's long enough. Now it's time to plan the sea turtle. I thought we would have the sea turtle on there. I was trying to decide if I wanted it to look like it was swimming or straight up. I ended up doing swimming. And then I made some stencil vinyl. You can use regular vinyl for this too. I have stencil vinyl. So what I did was I went on my Cricut Design Space, and the star shape is a free shape. And I measured the little flippers here on my sea turtle. I cut 4 of them down the same size here for the larger part of my front fins, 2 a little bit smaller here on each side, and then I cut 4 of the very smaller ones here for the bottom because the back flippers are smaller. So I can do flag stars here for the sea turtle. Now that I have those on, I also have to kind of tape off the shell because I want to do something different with the shell. And so I used some painter's tape, and then I used navy blue acrylic paint and just sponged this on with one of the paint daubers. And it is such a bold color, especially on that ivory. It took the paint really well. For the bottom here, I have to use a couple pieces to kind of make this work. I want to protect the shell completely, and I sponged this paint on too. This will leave the ivory stars behind when I remove the stencil vinyl that I added to it. And I am going to do the last flipper, and I also want to do the head. So I want to make sure that I don't cover the head at all. And I cut the painter's tape kind of more rounded there for the neck to make it work with the design of the sign, and painted that as well. That one coat of navy paint went a long way. Once it started to dry, then I went over and distressed this. I distressed it with ivory and then used a baby wipe. And distressing really made my stars appear because they were so covered with paint you could barely even see where they're at. So that worked well. And then I just used my Cricut weeder to weed off my stencil vinyl, leaving white stars behind. I think this looks so patriotic and fun for a sea turtle. A lot of you guys know I live where sea turtles nest, so we love sea turtles here. We were walking on the beach a couple of weeks ago. We came across 2 mama sea turtles going up the beach to lay their eggs. And that is so amazing. It's such a wonderful process to witness. If you can, like, do a tour or something like that, you definitely should. It's amazing. And I am going to do the back flippers the same way. We have our 4 stars there, and then distress this. And I'm going to do something a little bit different for the head because I didn't do the stars there. I thought I would only do the stars on the flipper. I thought we could do a fun, like, scaly pattern on the sea turtle head, something like a little bit more realistic for a sea turtle. I'm going to do that with a white paint pen. First, I just do like a little hexagon shape here right at its like very front of its head. And then I'm going to continue those hexagons in a row all the way back here to the sea turtle neck. Then I'm going to continue that little honeycomb pattern on all the way to the right and then all the way to the left. And this gave really fun texture to this. I am going to distress this part as well. And then it has little bump outs for the eyes. At first I made them brown, but I didn't really like them in brown. So I went back and made them black here with a Sharpie. And I want to do all of that first before I go in and distress this part. So then I distress this with ivory as well. So it has that same distressed navy look as all of the flippers too. I really only wanted to do like the navy blue for those parts of the sea turtle, and I want to switch to a different color of blue for the shell. I have all the red and white stripes already on the background, so I wanted to do something just more traditional coastal for the shell. So again, I do have to protect all of the flippers and the head here with painter's tape. This project was really easy to do. It just required a lot of painting and dry time. I do use a heat gun to kind of speed that process up, but it took a little bit longer than you would think. Now for the paint color, I used Cloudless by Apple Barrel and sponged that on. I don't want to go super thick with the paint because I want you to still be able to see I want to still be able to see the pattern through there so that I can draw it back on. And I'm going to do that with a white paint pen. So it has this like kind of like decorative circle that goes around the edges with all these different sections for the sea turtle shell. So I'm going to go over those first. and I could see through the paint enough. It's kind of hard to see on camera, but I could see enough to be able to trace these out, especially if you kind of hold it a little bit at an angle. And I went all the way around here with the outer row of this. And then the middle sections are way larger, the different sections of the sea turtle. And I'm going to draw those all out as well. That looks super cool. Now I'm going to go in and distress this shell too, just to make it look distressed. Like everything else on this project, very coastal farmhouse. So I went over and distressed the whole shell with ivory, using a baby wipe to wipe off the excess paint. But I thought I might have distressed it a little too much because it kind of fades like the pattern on there. So I am going to have to go over it, I think, again with my white paint pen to really make it a little bit bolder here so you can still see it. So I just went over it with my paint pen one more time, and this sea turtle turned out so cute. I absolutely love it. So let's go ahead and add this to the sign. I kind of like it looking like it's swimming off to the left there. That's how I'm going to add this, and I just put hot glue here on the back of my turtle and glued this on to the side. Now, this did create a little bit of open space in the bottom left corner, and I thought it kind of needed something. Then I remembered that Dollar Tree now has like wooden sea creatures, and they have these 2-packs of starfish. So I thought a starfish would be perfect for the 4th of July, the star shape, of course. So I'm going to paint this to kind of correspond here with the sea turtle. I painted mine with that Cloudless by Apple Barrel, using a brush to kind of get down in all the different pieces. And I also wanted to make sure to paint the edges of this because you're going to be able to see it on the sign. It has like a little bump out frame on the edge of the starfish. And then it also has the bump out little starfish shape in the middle. So I'm going to do that a contrasting color. I just used a white paint pen and painted that white. I had thought about making the rim of it navy. They kind of correspond with the sea turtle, but I decided to leave it light blue because I didn't want it to compete with the sea turtle. I want the sea turtle to be the star of the show. So this is my little starfish. I think it looks really cute. I'm going to glue that right on about here, the way that I think it looks best. It has kind of a unique shape. And then I distressed that with a little bit of ivory paint too to make it look coastal and farmhouse. I love it. This project was really fun to create. Now, the last step is I wanted to do red, white, and blue beads for the top. And I remembered that I had white little wood beads from Temu that have sea turtles on there. Check these out. I thought that would be perfect. So I grabbed some red, white, and blue wood bead garland from the Dollar Tree for the red and the blue beads. Kind of a navy that matches my sea turtle. And I'm going to restring this and do blue, white, red on one side, but the white has the sea turtle. And then I'm going to do the opposite here on the other side. Super cute. I'm glad I decided to add that detail. The sea turtle beads are one of my favorites from Temu. So cute. And that is the final step to our little patriotic sea turtle. I love how this piece turned out. It's nice and large. This sea turtle is a little bit better quality sign than something that you would find at the Dollar Tree because it has like the carvings for like the shell and stuff like that. And especially with it painted white like that, it looks really nice, and it's a nice thick sign sitting on top of the Dollar Tree signs. But I love how patriotic and fun this is for this year. For this DIY, we're going to use fun noodles from the Dollar Tree. I'm going to take one and shorten it about 1 foot. I do want it to be large, though. We're going to make some giant fireworks for my yard with this. Now, at my Dollar Tree, I couldn't find any of the white ones. I really needed white ones because some of the fabrics and materials we're going to use to cover this are on the thinner side from Dollar Tree, and the red would show through and give it kind of a pink glow through white. So I had to go over mine with paint. I didn't really want to, but 1 coat of white acrylic paint on this definitely fixed that problem. So if you can't find any white ones like I couldn't, I tried to get like some faded red ones here outdoors at the Dollar Tree I was at to try to make them a little bit more faded, but they were not faded enough. So for this one, I'm going to make it shorter. I'm going to do a total of 3 of the pool noodles from the Dollar Tree to make 3 giant fireworks. We're going to make these look like bottle rockets a little bit. So I am going to paint this one too. I cut this one shorter. I want them to all be different heights. I think it'll look a little bit better that way. I can have the little fireworks shooting off in different directions, but I'm going to bundle them all together into one. For my third one, I chose blue because I'm going to do like blue and white stars. This was the closest blue I could find. So I went ahead and cut this one too a different length. And I painted it too because even with blue to blue, that teal was going to shine through those white stars that I'm going to add to this. So I had to take my time. One coat of white paint on all of that. And I used acrylic paint. Now to cover my first firework, I'm going to use the table runner from the Dollar Tree. I think these are new this year. It's like an outdoor type of material, and I think these will hold up really well outdoors. There is the red and white flag stripes and the flag stars on this one. I'm going to cut the pointed end off to give me kind of a flat edge here, and I think this is going to be perfect to cover the actual fun noodle. So I am going to cut off the stars on one side because the pool noodle is not very thick. So I don't think I need the star pattern on this one. I'm just going to go ahead and cut that off, just leaving me the stars and stripes. I do want the stars on this one though, to make this one a little bit different. This is going to be my tallest one that I'm going to have in the back of my bundle of fireworks. And I'm going to simply wrap that table runner around the pool noodle. Look how perfect that is for that. And I love this material for it. It is a little bit longer than I needed, so I just cut it down to size. And remember, I did cut about a foot off my longest one because I don't want it to curl at all. I want my fireworks to stay straight. And we are going to stake these with a Dollar Tree broom handle. So I use that as a guide for how long I wanted it to be. I added some hot glue on the inside of this fabric and hot glued that to my pool noodle like that. And I'm going to do that all the way down. This is such a large firework. I can only show you about half of it at a time here in my workstation. And then I'm going to wrap it around where the flag stars will be visible as a stripe down the front of this little bottle rocket. Again, using hot glue. If you use hot glue on the material instead of the pool noodle, it does work a little bit better. You don't have to worry about that melting foam of the pool noodle. And I'm going to do that all the way down. And this is going to be our first little firework. We're actually going to add cones to the top to make them look like rockets. But I think that one looks really cute. For the next one, I'm going to use another one of the table runners. This one, I just wanted it to be flag stripes though. So again, I'm cutting off the ends just to make it a long rectangular piece of fabric. But I'm also going to cut off the stars on this one all the way down, just leaving the stripes. I thought I could have one firework with stars and stripes, one with stripes, and one with just stars is my plan. But I'm doing the table runner on 2 of them. And I really like crafting with this material. It's really great for it. So I cut the stars off both ends and then I'm going to cut it down to size. I'm only covering the sides of these fireworks. And then just like before, we are going to attach it by adding hot glue here to the fabric. It's like almost like a fabric texture on the inside and then that plastic all-weather material on the outside. And I'm really glad that Dollar Tree added a flag table runner. That's something that I've had to modify other things for in the past to use from the Dollar Tree. And just overlapping slightly, this is the perfect width to cover this skinny pool noodle. And that is my flag stripes one. That is ready to go. And then for my third and final firework for this display, I'm going to use the Dollar Tree cape. This is like kind of a flag cape that they have this year. I think this is new this year too. You could always use the chair cover too for a flag star material. I'm just going to cut that part of that cape off. And before the flag police come after me, this isn't a flag, this is a cape. And I am going to just cut the strings off of the cape here too, just leaving me a piece of fabric. Now I'm definitely going to need more than one of these to have enough of that star pattern to cover this firework. But this I think will cover a good half of this size. This is going to be my shortest one that I'm going to have in the bundle. It is a little bit wider than I need, so I am going to trim off some of this extra material. because I don't want that pattern to kind of interfere with what I've got going on there. So this is a second one of the Dollar Tree capes, and I'm going to cut the flag stars off of this portion as well, and this is going to be the other side. So I just cut it down, and then I'm going to use the first piece that I cut down for reference for a template to cut down the second one, because I think 2 of these is going to be just about perfect. So just trimming all of that material down. This is also kind of an all-weather material. I think it will hold up well outdoors because these fireworks are going out in my landscaping. And I love the idea of giant fireworks, something that you can even see from the road and will look really festive for the 4th of July. I added hot glue on the inside of that flag star material and hot glued that on. And then I'm going to overlap it slightly, again, attaching it with hot glue. I'm going to kind of hide all of my seams here and back, so it doesn't have to be perfect back there. You're not going to be able to see it. And then for the other half of the pool noodle, I'm going to use the other part of the cape. Again, I had a little bit of too much, so I was able to cut off that little folded portion to give me a little bit less wrinkles, and then just lining it up so my seam will be on the back again and attaching everything with hot glue. Now we have all 3 of our fireworks covered with the materials that I want. For the cone shapes for the top, I'm going to use 2 of the little flexible cutting mats from the Dollar Tree. These are from the kitchen aisle. And I had a little mini party hat from the Dollar Tree for reference, but it's a pretty easy shape to trace out the cone shape. I wanted it to be bigger than this, so I'm going to do it bigger, but just using that kind of as a template. You want to cut out a straight edge there, and then with an arch, and then another straight edge here on the other side. You can roll that together. I thought this would be a great all-weather cone for the top of this to make them look like rockets. So just making sure that's going to work. I think it will. I'm going to use the other half of this cutting mat to trace out a second one. So I needed both in the package for 3 larger cones to go on the top of these giant fireworks. So just using one for reference, I traced out the others and cut them down to size. I thought I would paint them too, and maybe red, white, and blue, and do a different color cone on each one of my little bottle rockets. I'm calling them bottle rockets because they're kind of shaped like rockets, but I didn't really do a stick for the bottom of them that I normally do. I just want most of it just to be fireworks and be festive looking. So I glued them together in the cone shape. I couldn't get them quite tight enough to not have a hole in the tip, and I don't want water to get inside, so I did seal the tip with hot glue on all of them. And once gluing them into place, I did have to trim them a little bit to make the bottoms flat, but I don't want any water to get in there for sure. And so I just glued them all into the shape of cones, and then we are going to paint these red, white, and blue. Now you could use acrylic paint on these. I have some spray paint and red, white, and blue flag colors. I thought that would be perfect for that. So I'm just going to spray paint mine to make it a little bit easier. But again, making sure that they're all sealed. I put hot glue in the tips of all of them. The first one is going to be white. I have a flat white primer. I'm just going to use that as paint. And I just painted one coat. And those flexible cutting mats are great because you can cut them and bend them. They're very flexible craft material. The second one, we're going to do an apple red here for a red, white, and blue. And one coat was definitely enough for all 3 of these. The last one is going to be a navy color. I have this great color. I think this will be perfect for a flag. And I painted that one as well. I'm going to let these sit and dry up a little bit, and then we're going to glue these onto the top of our giant bottle rockets. And I also told you that we're going to use a broom handle. So that's going to be the stake for this project. It fits perfectly on the inside of a pool noodle. You just have to remove the handle. I used a pair of pliers and just twisted it counterclockwise until it pops right off. I'm going to leave the other end of the screw because I actually use that to help me screw it down into the ground. And that always works really well to stake items in your yard. No need to take the tag off of it because it's just going to go right on the inside here. You're never going to be able to see it. And I want it to stick out a little bit to be able to be staked to the ground. And then this is going to be the main support for the entire structure. You could do individual ones where you don't bundle them together and you would need like a broomstick for each one. Now this is the white cone. I'm going to use that on my Stars and Stripes one. And adding some hot glue here to the top of the pool noodle. I glued that on the inside of the cone, and this firework is almost complete. Now the next one, I did the navy on the red and white stripes. I thought that would contrast well together. So again, I just added some hot glue here to the top. Now I didn't cover the ends of these fireworks because this one's going to be underneath the rocket cone. The other ones are going to be really close to the ground and you're not going to be able to see the bottom of it. Then I did the red cone for the blue and white stars firework, gluing that on as well. And now I have all of those fireworks put together. We can bundle them together. I found some really large zip ties from the Dollar Tree, and I thought they would come in handy here since these are some giant fireworks. So I tried at first to bundle all three together at once, but it was kind of awkward to get them exactly positioned how I want. So let me show you what I ended up doing. So I did try here putting my smallest one in front, having them kind of go out in different directions like fireworks. But again, a little awkward, and I didn't think everything was going to stay put. So I'm going to go ahead and remove that one in the front, and I'm just going to bundle two together at a time, and that made it much easier to position. Now I can still use that zip tie. I'm just going to overlap these. So the stripe one will be going off to the right, and then I'm going to attach the star one to the stripe one here. Again, by adding it like this and zip tying it. These large zip ties worked great for this. I don't like the looks of them, but they're great for the structural purpose, and we can cover them with something a little bit better. So this is what they look like, all kind of going out in different directions. And then to disguise those, I thought Dollar Tree rope would be perfect for that. So I just tied that around where I attached the zip tie. And I think I'm going to have to bundle it, go around a couple of times to make sure you can't see any of the two different zip ties and the positions. So I just went around a couple times after tying it. Then I cut a little tail here and then tied this into a bundle. I decided not to do a bow. I'm just going to knot it. I don't want anything crazy. I just wanted a little bit of disguise for how I bundled everything together. And I think that should be sturdy enough. Now for the bottom of our fireworks, we need some wicks. So I'm going to use that rope again. And I'm going to cut 3 little pieces of rope down, hot gluing those into the center of the pool noodles. So they will stick out like fireworks there. And then we are going to stake this out in the landscaping. It actually worked really well. I did like my landscape area, so it was pretty easy to get the broom handle down. What I did was I pulled the broom handle out, put that down to the ground, spun it, and then slid that largest firework there down on top of the broom handle. And this is what it looks like out in front of my home right now. Now, if you don't want to DIY the cone tops, I did find plastic party hats at the Dollar Tree the other day that you could possibly paint that would work really well for this DIY too, but I think this is really fun. For this DIY, we're going to make a giant American flag for my garage door. I thought this would be a perfect party decoration, but it could also just be 4th of July decor for your house. So I picked up some tablecloths. I picked up 3, 1 blue, 1 white, and 1 red to make the American flag. For this blue one, I'm going to make the blue and white star section of the flag. And I did mine about 40 inches wide. So I'm going to measure and cut that. And then 2 of my garage door panels is about 37 inches tall. So what I'm going to do is fold the tablecloth the other direction. It makes it easier to cut it all at once. And that way I can measure and cut this to the exact size that I need for my garage door. I think 37 inches is going to work. I am going to make 4 separate panels for my garage door so that I can still use my garage door. But if you're just using yours for a party and you don't care if you can open and close the garage, you can do yours all in one sheet and it would probably be a lot easier because I did have to cut mine in half like that to make it fit with my garage. So this is my top panel, which is like 40 inches wide by 17. I did find kind of the center just for a little bit of help. And then I cut out some white vinyl stars using my Cricut. This is just the star-free cutout that they have in Cricut Design Space. And I made my little white stars about 3.5 inches. I thought vinyl would be the easiest way to do this. And I'm just sticking it onto the tablecloth directly. I'm going to do a total of 5 here on the top, trying to space those out. And then I have room for one more row of stars on this panel, and I'm gonna do 4. That way they're kind of alternating in between like a real flag. We're not gonna do 50 stars though, don't worry. And so I did 4 stars on this section. Now I'm gonna put my other half of this star panel on here so I can use that for a template for spacing for these 5 stars to get me started on the second section as well. And if you didn't have a Cricut, you could always use like the little paper stars they have from the Dollar Tree and paint them white and glue those on. You could do that as well. And I am going to go ahead and do my bottom row here so I can kind of line up those 5 stars. And then I have room for one more row. So I'm going to do 4 stars here in the middle of the second section. Now for the red stripes, I'm going to use the red party table cover from the Dollar Tree. These are thin plastic, but I think it looks pretty good for a party decoration. And what I'm going to have to do is cut stripes. Now, I thought my stripe should be about 7 inches. You can make yours however big you want yours. Unfortunately, every single one of the panels on my garage door are different sizes. So I am going to have to cut some of these stripes and have them just kind of match back up for the pattern. So I'm cutting 7-inch stripes. This way I have them folded so it's cutting out 4 at a time here. And I'm just using what I've already cut for a template to be able to cut these down. It's really easy to cut these, and it's pretty forgiving if you don't cut them like perfectly straight. You're not going to be able to see it on such a large display like this. The tablecloth was almost the same width as my garage. I just had to cut off a few inches there at the end. So I did have to do a little bit of math to get this to work with all of my stars and stripes. But one piece is folded here when I have them all folded into 4 like that. So I did have to cut that. This attempt, I just cut off like the edge, but there's an easier way to do this that I figured out when I was doing the white stripes. But I'm going to have a total of 6 of the red stripes. I wanted one to be on the top and one to be on the bottom of my flag. And I'm going to do a total of 5 of the white stripes. So I'm just going to show you me cutting down my first set here. And this is what I'm going to use for my white stripes, the white table cover from the Dollar Tree. All in all, I bought 3 tablecloths for this. So that's pretty inexpensive. And then I probably spent more money on vinyl just because I used Cricut vinyl, but you could always use a cheaper vinyl for the stars, or again, use Dollar Tree stars for it. Very inexpensive for how this turned out. So this is another 7-inch stripe. I just cut off the very end to make them the width of my garage. Now, some panels will need to be a little bit shorter depending on if they're next to the blue star portion of the flag. But this is what I meant by cutting this one in half a little bit easier. I was able to just put my scissors in the crease and it cut really easily that way. So that's definitely an easier way to cut down your stripes. So now I have red stripes, I have white stripes. So let's start putting these together. I'm just going to use packing tape. Now, when I started, I was just kind of putting packing tape here and there. But then when I thought about it, I was like, oh, the wind and everything. I don't want these ripping apart. I really want like each one of my 4 panels to be solid. So I am definitely going to add some more tape to that. And I did cut it down to make it shorter because it's going next to the stars. Now, this is my next 7-inch panel. So this is what I mean about having to cut the stripes to make them work for my different garage size panels. I don't know if all garage doors are like that. I'm covering a single car garage in an older Florida home. So mine were 17 inches on the top, 20.75 inches on the second, 21 inches on the third, and 20 inches on the 4th panel. So they were all a little bit different. So I'm going to have to just cut them down to size. And as you can see, I added tape all the way down. I used about 2.5 packages of the Dollar Tree Scotch packing tape for this project too. So that is definitely another supply you'll need when you go to put this together. Now I attached the star panel and we have our first section. So I wanted to use magnets to attach it. I'm using these cheap magnets that I have. They're little button magnets that I have from Walmart. They're not quite strong enough. I was really hoping they were going to be strong enough because the plastic tablecloth is so lightweight, But just being outside, I did have to reinforce this with more magnets, some stronger magnets from the outside you'll see, but I did add them to the panel. And this is how my first section of the flag looks. I think it's looking good. So let's continue on our way down the garage door. I have the remaining part of that red stripe. I do need to cut it shorter because it's going to be next to the flag star portion of my flag. And now I can tape this to my white stripe here to continue this panel. As you can see, I'm pretty much taping everything because I don't want this to come apart. And then I'm going to do a red stripe next. And again, this panel was larger than my first panel, so I have more room for stripes. And I'm going for a little bit more than 20 inches on this one. So my next stripe is a white stripe, and I did have to cut it down to make it fit to size, but cutting it into 7-inch strips was easier for me at first, and then I just cut them to make them work with my garage door. So I have another blue star panel here for the second section. This is going to finish out the star part, and I just used packing tape to attach that too. And again, we're going to do magnets on here. I just used these magnets because I kind of had them in my stash, but I kind of wish I hadn't added them and just used the stronger magnets on the outside. I had a lot of strong magnets that I use like on cruise walls and stuff like that on cruise ships that I've gotten on Amazon, and those were way stronger than these little button magnets. But this is my second panel on my garage door. This makes such a big statement from the road, and my husband was afraid he wasn't going to be able to use the garage door when he came home, and I'm like, no, you could totally use it. I went to all this trouble to make them into separate panels so you can definitely open and shut it without ripping it or tearing it or anything like that from the automatic garage door operation. So for the next one, I used my remaining part of my white stripe, a 7-inch red stripe, a 7-inch white stripe, and again, just taping everything all the way down here, trying to have them close together, maybe slightly overlap if needed. And then my next stripe is a red stripe that I did have to cut down to make this one fit. This panel is 21 inches on my garage door, so I size this one appropriately too. And then again, just adding magnets to all of these and some packing tape on the back. I was hoping that you wouldn't be able to see the magnets since I put them on the back, but since the table covers are so thin, you can see them. But that's okay. I definitely needed all the magnets I could get to hang this, and that's why I just added more magnets to the panel anywhere where I thought it needed it. It was pretty obvious what needed it based on the strength of the magnets. Now, this is my third and final part. It's the very bottom of the garage door. I used my remaining red stripe, one white and one red 7-inch stripe, and taped these as well. Then we're going to add magnets to the back of these two, and we're going to finish off this garage door display. I really love how it turned out. It covered the entire garage door, and it makes such a fun statement for a 4th of July party. Here with my giant American flag. It is holding up well, staying on there with the magnets. I did have to reinforce the magnets on this to hold it all up there by adding those extras. I wanted to create a coastal patriotic surf shack. So I'm using some of the chunky wood signs from the Dollar Tree and one of their bamboo cutting boards. The bamboo cutting board I'm going to use for the very bottom to give me a foundation for my surf shack. And I do want it to have a little bit of an edge because I want to fill it with sand after we add the surf shack. So I am going to kind of frame it out with some Dollar Tree rope, just wrapping one piece of rope all the way around the little bamboo cutting board. That will help keep the sand in there. I will also glue the sand down, but I just wanted to do this step first before we start constructing the surf shack. I just used hot glue to glue it to the edges. Now, they have been making these bamboo cutting boards a little bit bigger. It'll depend on what your store has in stock still. My stores, it kind of varies if they have the bigger one or the smaller one. This is the smaller one though, but you could use whatever you have for the base. Now for the surf shack itself, I'm going to use 2 of the chunky house signs and 1 of the chunky just rectangular signs from the Dollar Tree. I'm going to cut this one down to be the sides of the house. So I just measure where the roof line starts on the house signs, and then I am going to cut that part off. Then I'm going to actually cut it in half. And so it's not going to be a really wide house on the sides. It's going to be a little bit skinnier. And so I just kind of measure where the halfway point is, and I'm going to cut those two lines on this board, and I get these two little side pieces. Now, if you can't find the chunky house shapes, you could always cut that shape really easily out of the rectangular ones just by cutting the pointy roof like that. And these are different colors. I could only find the brown wood signs, but that's fine. I'm going to paint everything anyway. To put it together, I'm just using hot glue, and I glue on both sides of the surf shack like that. I did it kind of behind so you won't be able to see it from the front. And then I'm going to glue on the back. I do have to kind of pull them out a little bit when I add this one to it to make sure everything is square here. And that looks pretty good. What an easy way to build the structure of the surf shack. Now I am going to have to change the colors since they are different colors. And I wanted everything to be like a coastal farmhouse ivory. So I am using some antique parchment acrylic paint by Apple Barrel. And I just went over the wood sides. I think I will go ahead and paint and distress the front and back. They're pretty close to what I want. But I really kind of want the little groove in between the little boards there to have paint in them too. And I want everything to look good together. I don't have to worry about the roof part yet because we're going to be covering that with the roof of the surf shack. And I've done like other like varieties of really fun coastal patriotic things. Like I've done like a beachside firework stand. I wanted to do something really cool with lots of detail that I can put in my entryway for the 4th of July, and something with a little bit of a coastal twist. Now the sides were that darker wood, so I did have to go over them with 2 coats of paint. For the roof, I'm using the little wood planks from the Dollar Tree. I have some of the square ones. They're a little bit bigger than what I need. I'm going to put 2 of them together like that. They're perfect like width-wise, but length-wise they're a little bit longer than I want for the structure of the roof. So I'm going to cut those down. And what I did was I cut one slightly smaller than the other because I'm going to overlap the very top to avoid having to miter the corners here at the top. So this is the smaller piece, slightly. I add some hot glue to the roof line, and I'm going to glue this on. Now we are going to do a more detailed roof on this surf shack, but this is going to be the base and provide the structure. And it looks pretty good too. So this time I'm going to go all the way up to the top with this one to create that pointy roof line, again, without having to miter any corners. I like to try to keep it easy when I'm sawing. And you might be able to see the sides of the roof here when I cover it. So I went ahead and went over the edges with some of that ivory paint that I used for the surf shack. I absolutely love how this project turned out. It was so fun to create. And I am going to give it a little coastal farmhouse vibe by distressing it with some antique wax. I just dry brushed that on there, and then I use a baby wipe to wipe off the excess. I love that distressed ivory look. For coastal, it just works so well. So I did that with all 4 sides of our surf shack. I plan to do like a door on the front and like a window on the side, and then decorate the sand around it to make it look like it is at the beach. But I'm also going to decorate everything patriotic for the 4th of July. For the roof, I am using popsicle sticks. These are kind of the medium-sized popsicle sticks. These are from the Dollar Tree. And I am going to just cut the rounded ends off. And that gave me about the right length. I'm going to try to use that as reference to cut down the rest of these. I'm going to need a total of 6 of the popsicle sticks for each side of the roof, so a total of 12. And I thought that we could do like a fun flag stripe on the roof, something that would be coastal, like the red and white stripe, but something that's perfect for the 4th of July. So I cut all of those down. They're not all perfect, but I can always trim them up later. And then I want to do the flag stripe, so I'm going to do half of them in white. So I'm using that same like antique parchment color. And I did have to go over those with a couple coats to make sure that white really pops. And then I'm going to do red on the other 6. This one I just did 1 coat of the red because I wanted to look a little distressed. And it kind of almost stained the popsicle sticks, as you can see. Popsicle sticks work great for roofs because they are so thin. So I'm going to start here at the very bottom, and I'm going to hot glue on my first white shingle. I had thought about like making individual shingles, but I think this works really well, just continuing one shingle all the way across. And it made everything easier, I think. I'm slightly overlapping those and hot gluing those to the sign. And that is our final piece for the side. And as you can see, they're not all exactly the same length. I was cutting them pretty fast. I just used a pair of heavy duty scissors, and it's really easy to cut popsicle sticks. So I trimmed those up to make that look better. Now for the other side, I'm going to do the same thing, starting here at the bottom, and we're going to do white, red stripes all the way up. I really love the idea of a surf shack. I don't think I've ever DIY'd a surf shack before. I've done beach houses like for Halloween and lots of fun structures like docks and stuff, but I have never done a surf shack. So this was a really fun project to do too. I glued those all on there. You could slightly see the roof there at the top. So I made sure to paint that ivory. And I also painted the edges of the popsicle ivory there on the front. So they're not just different. I'm also going to use those popsicle sticks, 3 of them, to create a fun wood front door for the surf shack. So I'm just cutting these down to size. I'm going to do 3 of them across. I think that's going to be the perfect width for a little door here. And I want to do it a beachy blue. I'm using my favorite color by Apple Barrel. And this is the cloudless color. I think it's just a perfect beachy blue. I don't have to change it in any way. I'm going to hot glue the first one on in the center to kind of center my door and glue the other 2 on each side. A really cute little door. I do want to distress it to give that coastal farmhouse vibe. So I go over it with a little bit of ivory with dry brushing and wipe off the excess paint here with a baby wipe. I love how this turned out. It's so cute. And now for the sign. I designed this printable. I will include a link to this free printable in the description of today's video if you'd like to recreate. And I printed mine out on cardstock and I sized it so that it would fit perfectly on this jumbo popsicle stick. I think this is a giant popsicle stick. Yeah, I get these at Walmart and I just put some Mod Podge on there and then I had cut this down, oversized of course. It is like supposed to look like a wood sign that has rugged edges. And I think popsicle sticks are thin enough that I should be able to cut this down appropriately. So I did have to kind of cut around some of the letters here on the top. And then when I get to the edge, I'm going to just kind of cut back and forth to give it that jagged wood look. Now you could just cut the cardstock and glue the cardstock directly onto the surf shack. But the reason I added a popsicle stick is just to make it stick out a little bit, give it a little bit more of a 3D vibe. But either one I think would work. Now that I have it all cut out, I hot glued it here above the door. And then I sealed it with a little bit more Mod Podge because, of course, it was just cardstock and paper. That looks really cute. I do want a starfish to go above the surf shack. And I have these little resin starfish. I got these on Temu. I will try to post a link. I'm not an affiliate with Temu, but I'll try to post it. Temu links are kind of hard sometimes because they sell out a lot, but I just painted this white one red. And then for the doorknob, I thought I would use just a tiny wood bead from the Dollar Tree, the smallest one that I have. And I'm just going to paint it that ivory color to match the beach house. I meant to fill the hole in the wood bead with spackle first, but it's not too late. I'm going to add some spackle here, trying to fill up the hole. That way it will look like a solid doorknob. I'm going to go ahead and attach the little starfish here to the top. It's really cute, made out of resin. Perfect size for that. And if you have any of those little tiny starfish from Amazon, those might work as well. Painting it red, though, I think really made it pop. And then I hot glued on my little doorknob that I painted ivory. For the roof line, I want to decorate it with a little patriotic pennant banner, something patriotic. So I'm going to use some flag ribbon. I have this red and white stripe ribbon and blue and white stars ribbon that I also got on Temu. And I am going to cut 2 pieces down here. And I'm going to just cut like the stripes. I'm cutting all the wire off. It's a little bit bigger than I need. Then I'm going to like dovetail one end to make that little pennant banner. And then I am going to cut the second one the same exact way. I wanted 2 of the red and white stripe and then 1 of the blue and white stars. You could also do this with Dollar Tree ribbon, whatever you have, or you could even use something like the chair cover or any of the other flag print items from the Dollar Tree, even napkins. I'm always trying to find just stars and stripe material. It works really well. I used a little piece of Dollar Tree twine, and I'm going to hot glue the blue and white stars to the middle and then the red and white stripes on each side. This is going to be the first 4th of July decoration we're going to add to this little surf shack. I want it to look like it's decorated for the 4th of July. So I glued those all on, just a really easy little pennant banner. And then I'm going to hot glue that both to the roof on each side on the eave here. So it drapes down, like slightly overlapping the front door of the surf shack. For the door, I wanted a wreath, and I thought it would be really fun to do a life ring instead. So I'm going to use one of these wood rings from the Dollar Tree. And the first thing I did was just paint the entire thing just bright white. And then once I get this painted, I'm also going to do red stripes on there. I thought about using some tiny ribbon, but I thought paint pen would be the easiest way. So I'm just using a red paint pen and just painting the stripes on. I did one on one side, trying to make sure I got the sides as well, since it is more of a 3D piece. And then I went straight across and did a second stripe. And then I'm going to need the 2 other stripes on the other side. I thought about hanging this on the side of the beach house, but I thought it would be fun to do it as a wreath for the door. It just makes perfect sense for that. So once I painted this little wood ring down, I'm just going to hot glue this to my little door. And it also gives me a red and white stripe for 4th of July. Now, the next thing I wanted to do was make a window for the side of the surf shack. And I'm using these little coffee stirrers. These are little tiny coffee stirrers that I got on Amazon. I will try to remember to post a link to these as well. I hate them as coffee stirrers, but they're great for crafts because, as you can see, they're like just little teeny tiny thin, like almost like popsicle sticks. So I cut 3 pieces the same length for the width of the window. And then I'm going to cut 3 vertical pieces as well. And total of 3 of the coffee stirrers made this window. Now it's time to put it together. I add just a little bit of hot glue to the bottom and to the side here, and I'm just going to make the square first. Then we can overlap those with the other 2 pieces to form like the cross frame on the window. I'm doing this on the left side. It's going to provide a fun detail over here. I wanted to decorate not only the front of the surf shack, but I also wanted to decorate the sides. I'm also going to decorate around the surf shack and do a complete scene. And this is what it looks like so far. Now, for the roof, I really wanted a tiny American flag. The only thing I had were these little toothpicks from the Dollar Tree, and I attempted to make this work. Now, it's a little too thin just to glue it on. So what I did was I used some twine, and I wrapped that around, hot gluing that to it. It's going to give me just a wider diameter, something that I can glue to the top. If you stick around, you'll see what I end up doing with this though. I really wanted like a flag that was fabric. I just can't find any tiny flags from Dollar Tree at all. So I thought I would try the toothpick method here, and I just glued that to the very top of the surf shack as another patriotic DIY. Now for this side, I want to have a surfboard. It is a surf shack, of course. I'm using the giant popsicle sticks that I get from Walmart. I cut it down so the bottom is flat, and then I cut the sides and I curved in at the bottom to give it that surfboard shape. And then I curved a point at the tip of it to make it look like a surfboard. Sometimes these will split a little bit as you're cutting the popsicle sticks, but a lot of times it still works. Mine split a tiny bit when I was trying to cut this one, but I think it's fine. I had thought about buying some of the wood surfboards. I saw some on Temu the other day, and I was like, oh, I haven't needed a surfboard for a craft in a while, and I didn't buy them. Now I kind of wish I had, but you know what? They're so easy to make with the popsicle sticks. It's okay. Now for the surfboard itself, I painted it that fun cloudless blue color, and then I used a white paint pen just to do a stripe down the middle. Now doing the white over the blue, it kind of fades a little bit, so I did have to go over that with several coats of the white to really make a bold stripe down the side of it. And I think that looks really coastal and cool, a little bit patriotic with a blue and white stripe, right? And then I am going to just burn off the fuzzies here on the rope that I had added to the base of this, because I don't want to add the surfboard yet. I want to lean it up against the house. I think we're ready to attach it. I wanted to decorate the house as much as I could before attaching it, just because it's easier to work with. Now I hot glued it right here to the center of the cutting board, and I'm going to lean this surfboard up against it by gluing it to the base and also gluing it to the little surf shack like that. Fun little surfboard over on this side. Now it's time to decorate the area around. I wanted to do a patriotic sign, but I want it to be like a board sign like you would find at the beach. So I'm using the popsicle sticks that I used for the roof and the door, and I cut down 3 little pieces here for 3 signs, and I thought we could do a fun patriotic saying on these. I want them to be red, white, and blue. And I'm doing the more traditional patriotic colors on this because I did want to have a couple little touches of navy in this. So I did 1 red, 1 white, and 1 in navy. Once those were dry, I'm going to use my white paint pen, and I'm just going to freehand these. You could always use your Cricut if you wanted to. But I'm going to have 1 say sun. And doing the white over red, I did have to go over that a couple of times. The white one, I can't do white, so I'm going to have to switch that up. But then the navy one, I'm going to have say freedom. So this was a little bit harder because it was a little bit longer word, but I just did freedom on here. And I thought I would have it say sun, sand, and freedom. So the white one is going to say sand. And I just went over the freedom one a couple of times here to make sure that really pops against the blue. And then for the red, I didn't have like a finer tip red paint pen from Posca. So I'm just using a red Sharpie. And I put the sand and of course, it's a little bit finer than the paint pen. So I just went over it again, making it a little bit thicker to make it correspond better with this. And it does look a little different than the paint, but I'm going to distress everything anyway. So I think I will make it work. I did have to go over the freedom again because in the sun, just because I really wanted you to be able to read those. But then I distressed everything with the ivory paint. This is just going to give it a coastal finish. The red, white, and blue, and the saying is very patriotic. So I thought this would be a fun way of doing like one of those little beach signs that you find with like the different words or the directional arrow sign. For the sign itself, I'm going to put it on one of the skinnier wood dowels from the Dollar Tree. And I'm just going to glue these pieces on. I glued sun to the top. I did notice some of the red paint did get on the back. So I just used my paint pen to paint the back too, just because this is a very 3-dimensional project. You might be able to see the back of the sign. And I had the same issue on the white one too, so I just went ahead and painted that one first before I attached it. On the sides, I didn't really want to paint the wood here, so I can still attach the hot glue. And I did sun, sand, and then we can add the word freedom here to the bottom. And I did shorten it a little bit so it's not super tall. And there is our little coastal sign. I'm going to put it right over here. Again, the base is a little skinny to hot glue down, so I'm going to wrap that with twine too. That seemed to work pretty well for the flag. So I just took some twine and hot glued that, wrapping that around the base. And that's just going to give me a little bit more width to be able to glue down because this is going to be a freestanding sign. I can't really bury it in anything. So I just put a big dot of hot glue and then I just held it until that hot glue dried, and that is now sturdy. For the next piece, I took a piece of driftwood I found from the beach. I cut down 3 different sizes, and then I hot glued the 3 pieces together to look like nautical pilings. I thought this would be a fun thing to have in the yard. Then I took some hot glue and some twine. I wrapped it around several times here to form the nautical pilings. The only thing I didn't like, for some reason, this driftwood was super hollow in the center, and so it looks kind of funny on the top. So I'm going to fix that just by putting a little bit of spackle down in the holes on mine. You could also use like those wood stems from the Dollar Tree that are cut pieces of wood, or you could just cut up a stick if you don't have any driftwood for this part. And so then I painted it brown at the top after I filled it in with spackle. And then I'm going to distress that with white, try to kind of match the color of the driftwood so it kind of blends in. Then we're going to add this behind the sign back here, but not necessarily blocking the window on the surf shack. So we can kind of have that to the side of the house and to the back. For the front corner, I want to decorate that with seashells. So I have some of these jarred seashells. I get these on Amazon. I love them. Again, I'll try to post a link to that. I also have some of the Dollar Tree mini seashells left over, and I want to use one of the little starfish from Amazon too. I have lots of things to link. And just check the description. I will try to link everything that I used in today's video. I used school glue all over the base, everywhere where sand needs to go, and a paintbrush to spread that out. And then I'm going to use some Dollar Tree tan sand, and we are going to cover this with sand. You don't want to go super thick with the sand because you want it to be able to be glued down. So I glued it from the bottom with the school glue. And then I'll also try to glue it from the top with some spray glue. I'm using some Elmer spray adhesive. I think I got this at the pharmacy, actually. It's pretty readily available anywhere, but anytime I do a sand project, I try to glue it from the bottom and the top to keep all of my sand where I want it. Now time for seashells. I'm going to glue this larger one down. It's a larger piece, so I really tried to glue to the wood itself and not necessarily to the sand. I did add these after the sand because I didn't want them to be completely covered with sand, but it is kind of hard to glue, so you kind of have to glue them to each other as well. And I added some more seashells too. For the backyard, I'm going to use one of these little grow animals from the Dollar Tree toy aisle. I had a little crab, and I just hot glued that into the sand. It's perfect because it's red for the 4th of July. And then I'm going to use one of these tinsel food picks from the Dollar Tree. These look like exploding fireworks, so I thought this would be fun to add to like the nautical pilings. So I just added a little hot glue and put that down inside my nautical piling, so it looks like some fireworks are bursting to the side of the surf shack. Now, I thought, from the front you can't really see the surfboard, so I'm going to add another surfboard here to the front just to give it a little bit more character. Same thing, I'm going to cut it down. Flat bottom, skinnier sides, and then a point that is rounded. I did make this one, I think, a little bit shorter than the other one, but I wanted to lean this to the front corner of the house. So you can definitely see that it is a surf shack from the front of the house too, not just the side that had the blue and white surfboard. And I just sanded this down and then I painted this thing white. I thought I could do like another surfboard design that would look like something you would find on a surfboard, but something patriotic too, since we're decorating this for the 4th of July. So once I got it good and white, I used a red paint pen and I'm just going to simply do flag stripes. Doing just straight lines like this with a paint pen is super easy. And I just painted these all the way down, just trying to keep my spacing as even as I could. And I really liked this design. This was a pretty easy design to do here. And I'm gonna actually wrap that like stripe all the way around because it is kind of a 3D piece. You're gonna be able to see the edges as well. So I did that on both sides. And then I'm just going to hot glue this onto the corner of the beach house, also gluing it down below too. That looks super cute. And then I decided I did not like the paper flag. It just looked kind of cheap compared to everything else. I'm just going to go ahead and remove that. I love how this turned out. This is our little surf shack. So many fun details. This was so fun to create. If you guys make one of these surf shacks, be sure to share with me in our Facebook group. I always link that in the description of the videos too. I would love to see what you come up with. Everybody's little surf shack is going to be a little bit different depending on what kind of supplies you have on hand or what you can find. But I love how this turned out. I want to show you from a couple of different angles here because this project has so many DIYs. I have like DIY beach houses before, and I love the idea of a surf shack. Really fun. The little surfboards really bring that across. And then the little patriotic details make this special, and it goes great with like the coastal patriotic decor I have in my entryway next to my front door. I think it's really a fun project. Now for the next one, I'm going to use a pencil holder from the Dollar Tree. It's a metal wire pencil holder and a Dollar Tree mirror to try to make an Uncle Sam hat solar light. I thought this would be a fun idea to try. I do need something for the top of it, and I thought I would continue that metal mesh. So I'm using one of the grill pans from the summer section at Dollar Tree. Mine has these like on an end stand with like barbecue supplies. And I am going to use a black Sharpie to mark on all of the wires that I need to cut down. The reason I'm using this for the top is I want to light it up. I want the solar light to be flush inside, but I needed a strong structure that I could cut easily into the shape of a circle. First, I thought about using the little flexible cutting mats from the Dollar Tree, but I'm not sure if that would be strong enough. So I just used my wire cutters and cut out this perfect circle shape, and it's going to be a lid for that pencil cup because the shape of the pencil cup sitting upright is perfect for the Uncle Sam hat. And I thought with the wire, like on the sides of the pencil cup, it would allow the light to shine out really well from the solar lamp. So making this for outdoors, and I think it turned out really fun. Now that I have that cut out, I'm going to take a little solar light. This one is from Dollar General, but you can use one from Dollar Tree too. I like to buy the 6 packs at Dollar General. I think they're a little bit cheaper. And I'm going to also cut out the wire here where the little square solar panel is so that nothing will interfere with the charging of this. It will be completely open here at the top, but sit flush on the inside of the Uncle Sam solar light. So I cut out that square. And I don't want to leave it open like that. I do want it to look decorative on the top. So I'm going to cover it with one of the Dollar Tree chair covers. These have like a flag pattern on one side and just white fabric on the back. I've actually made so many items with this, like pillowcases and stuff like that. They're really fun to craft with too. So I thought, let's do the stars for the top, and then we can use the stripes for the Uncle Sam hat, I think. And then we can also use the stars to decorate the mirror for the bottom of the hat. So the first thing I did was cut out the star part, and I'm going to cover this section. I just used hot glue on the inside of it to glue the mesh metal lid onto it like that to cover it. And I have a little bit of excess fabric because I do want to be able to kind of fold that around. I don't want any wire sticking out here or sharp edges. So I just cut the circle shape around what I have, leaving about a 1/2 inch of the fabric there that I can wrap around and kind of hem it. Of course, no sew. I'm doing hot glue with this, just putting hot glue around the edges and folding that over just for a little bit of a cleaner look. You could also use rope if you wanted to kind of frame it out a little bit. But I was able to do this and it eliminated any sharp edges from the wire. Now for the center, I have it covered with fabric now, so I'm gonna have to cut that little square open so the solar light will charge. But I love the fact that I made it flush with the top of the Uncle Sam hat so you can't see it, just like that. And I figured with the wire top, it would also come in handy because I don't think hot glue is going to be strong enough. I'm going to also use some Dollar Tree floral wire to wire it to the top. So I just put a little bit of that floral wire through the wire. I'm going to slide off that metal part. I don't really need that. And then add hot glue here to the edges of the solar panel and line that up with my square and glue that on. And then for reinforcements, I'm going to take that floral wire and go over it a couple of times. I don't want to cover up the light, but I did want a little extra support because hot glue, metal, outdoors, I didn't think it would be strong enough without a little bit of reinforcement. If you didn't have any wire, you could also maybe use some twine on the inside of it and tie it off. But if you're going to use hot glue like I did, I would recommend reinforcing that so it doesn't fall in when you attach it. Now, if you're worried about changing the batteries, you don't have to attach that. I'm going to attach it because hot glue is not permanent and I'm not too worried about changing the batteries on this one. Now for the Uncle Sam hat part that goes up, we're using the stripe part of the chair cover and wrapping this around where I have the red and white stripes vertical like this. Now it's shaped a little bit smaller at the bottom, so I'm going to kind of line it up where the stripes are straight up and down there in the front. And this is such a thin material that I think it's going to work perfectly for like a lampshade to let the light come out of the solar lamp. But it's also this like durable outdoor type material that I think will hold up well outdoors. So I cut down a piece that's going to be large enough to go around it. And then I'm going to start here in the middle. So my lines will be kind of straight there in the middle. And then wrap the other edge around to the back where the lines will be a little bit more crooked on the back, but that's okay because that's going to be the back of the project. And then I added more hot glue to the rim and wrapped it all the way around like that, trimming off any excess material at the very top of our Uncle Sam hat. And this material worked really well. And the wire mesh inside made a really cool light pattern at night too. And this worked really well. So I'm going to overlap the fabric here in the back. And then I'm going to cut like a straight seam down for the back of this project. And I also have all this excess material on the bottom, and I'm going to cut that down flush with the pencil cup. I love crafting with like the little pencil cups and stuff like that from the Dollar Tree. They have quite a great variety of things that you can make into really fun DIYs like this. And that is going to be the lid for it, just like that. I think that will work well. Now for the base of the hat, we're going to use a Dollar Tree mirror. This was the perfect size. I don't know why they're always so dirty. And I'm going to cover the outer black plastic rim with this fabric. I couldn't find an easy way to pop the mirror out, so I'm just going to leave it in there and DIY around it. I'm going to use that extra flag star pattern pillow cover that I have here to cut out some flag stars, like a ribbon here, to go around the outer edge. It wasn't quite long enough, but that's okay. I can always piece it together. If I have a long piece that can go around at the front, I can cut another piece of this out for the back of this. So just trying to replicate that same pattern all the way around, and then I'm just going to hot glue that to the edges. One reason I wanted to use a mirror on the bottom of this Uncle Sam hat is that I love using mirrors with like solar lights or any lighted candle projects because it's going to look so pretty when it's lit up because it's going to reflect off of the mirror. So I attached the little back patch first, and then I'm going to do the front inside, the longer piece of this. And you could also use like flag striped or star ribbon for this as well. That would work well. And then I just cut off the excess material. So for this, I didn't really need a lot of items. I needed the pencil cup. I needed the wire for the top, the solar light, and the mirror, and one of the flag chair covers. I attached this to the mirror with some hot glue so it'll stay put. And I decided to glue the lid on mine because with wind and weather, I didn't want it falling off and I wanted it to all stay together. And now we have a really fun, festive little Uncle Sam hat for the 4th of July that will light up at night. It's still super cute during the day, so let me show you what it looks like during the day first. And I've had this out in my landscaping since I made it, and it is holding up really well. And it looks really cute, like when you come up my entryway, a little Uncle Sam hat. But at night is when the magic happens, when it lights up like this. The little pencil cup made a really fun lampshade with that, and that stripe material was thin enough that it really lets the light come through. And I love the fact that the solar light is kind of hidden in the top and you can't really tell that it's there. For this Dollar Tree 4th of July party DIY, I'm going to use 2 white ceramic candle holders from the Dollar Tree and 2 of their blue Starburst plates. These were only $1 at my store today. I guess they're marked down because it is getting later in June. And so I was happy to get these for $1 a piece. I was like, this is just like the old days. I'm going to remove the tags from the bottom. This one with like a little bit of a bell shape on the bottom, I'm going to use for the base of this to elevate it. And I'm going to use a strong glue. I used the Dollar Tree multi-purpose cement here on the edges of the candle holder. And I'm going to center that and glue that onto the bottom of the plate. This is the large dinner plate for the bottom of this tray. And then for the top, I'm going to use the smaller salad plate. And I chose another white ceramic candle holder for this one, but a little bit different with like a little bubble shape. I thought it would be cool to have them a little bit different. I'm going to use that same multi-purpose cement glue to glue this one down. I did let these sit for a few minutes and let them start to set up because I need to let that dry. It's not fast like hot glue. And then I'm going to flip this one over and glue this all together. This is the very base. There's lots of room to add glue here. So I just kind of spiraled that glue around and then set this on here. I didn't do anything to the plates, so I should still be able to use those and make them food safe for a 4th of July party. And I think they look perfect. Blue and white, patriotic colors. The starburst pattern makes it look like exploding fireworks. So let's decorate this with some patriotic goodies. I didn't want to bake, so I went to Target and I got these patriotic cookies, patriotic cupcakes, and I think I'm going to mix them together and just to fill this entire little tier tray up. So easy, very inexpensive, and some sweet treats for your 4th of July party. All of the red, white, and blue looks great with that tier tray. And you don't have to have just desserts. You can display like any kind of party food on here. If you have some patriotic colors, like patriotic colored fruit and stuff like that too, you could do that as well. But I love it as a quick, easy 4th of July party DIY, and I definitely plan on using that this year. Now it's time for the final reveal. Let me know which 2026 4th of July DIY is your favorite down in the comments below, or just come say hello. This is my QR code that you can scan with your camera phone if you would like to buy me a coffee. I would really appreciate it, and enjoy the final reveal.
Baby, on the 4th of July, when all the colors would fly, we watched the flames in the dark down by the fireside. Run out, chasing the moonlight. No one could catch you. Fell into the waves of July. I heard you laugh and you cry. You hid your face in the stars. Oh, what a pretty disguise. La, 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 Run out, endless horizon. No one can touch you, baby. On the 4th of July, when all the colors would fly, I saw the lights in the dark reflecting out from your eyes. Let's go and be alone. If you're lonesome tonight, you know I'm home. Lights are falling from the sky now, so hard to see, but everyone's inside now. Blue in your heart, while swim out to the island. Dark on the water, purple and blue now. Light in your Baby, on the 4th of July, when all the colors would fly, we watched the flames in the dark down by the fireside. Run out, chasing the
Thank you so much for joining me today for this 4th of July crafting marathon. And I'd also like to thank my YouTube members who support my channel. Thank you to Jamie Job, Janae Farrington, Pamelia Wren, Donna Schreiner, Marin Christensen, Adrian Brolt, Debbie Middleton, Red Mama, Renee Albanese, Powell Puppy Life, Jenny, Debbie Austin, Lizette Thomas, Amy Branham, Mary Renzel Park, and Leanna Thomas. I really appreciate you. If you would like to join the membership, it is $4.99 a month. You're free to cancel at any time. Anytime I get my videos done early, you're going to have early ad-free access to them. And if you'd like more 4th of July crafting DIYs, be sure to check out one of these videos right here. And until next time, happy crafting and happy 4th of July in America 250.